Welcome back to Mornings with Zerlina. Katie Paris is the founder of Red, White, and Blue. She's a 20-year political veteran in national politics and also a suburban mom in Ohio, which has elections happening right now. November 7th is Election Day. We've been focused on Virginia, Mississippi, Ohio. Pennsylvania also has statewide elections. Good morning, Katie. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning, Zerlina. Thanks for having me.
So help us understand what's happening. How is it looking on the ground? Give me an update.
Okay, so we finally get to vote yes on issue 1, which will enshrine reproductive rights in our state constitution. This has been an all-year fight on the ground. Honestly, it's 2023, and it feels like we've had 3 general elections in Ohio this year. So first we had to get this ballot initiative on the ballot. Ohio does allow citizen-led ballot initiatives, so we had to collect the signatures. We collected over 700,000 of them. We qualified for the ballot. That was just a huge battle, right? Just doing that in a state where our state government is against us. And then we had a special election in August where our state legislature put on the ballot an initiative that said, okay, maybe you get to have citizen-led ballot initiatives here, people, but we're going to make them a whole lot harder to pass. We're going to end majority rule, and you're going to need a supermajority if you want to actually protect abortion in Ohio. Well, 57% of Ohioans said, we're going to hold on to our democracy a little bit longer, thank you, and said no to that. That was also called issue 1. Okay, so now we have issue 1 again because our state wants to make it this as hard and confusing as possible, of course. So many obstacles have been put in our way. Honestly, despite all of this, and I am so nervous every day, and we're working so hard here, but I am optimistic. I am optimistic. The majority of Ohioans support reproductive freedom. It feels like that on the ground, and despite these obstacles, it is starting to feel the way you want it to feel. And the data is looking pretty good, too.
This is about choice. And this is one of those moments where, again, the Dobbs decision has had real consequences, not just for the ability of people to seek the health care that they need and, you know, potentially horrible circumstances when they're not able to get that, but also the political fallout. And we saw in Kansas, surprisingly, in Wisconsin, there was a reaction by voters storming to the polls to tell us we want these rights. We're upset about the Dobbs decision. Do you feel like that anger is still there? Because, as you mentioned, there's been a special election already, and now we're having to do all of this again. Is there any chance, in your view, of people sort of being worn out or, you know, tapped out? Because this has been anger since Dobbs, but it has to be sustained over quite a long period of time.
So there is just no question that women in this country are, it still feels like yesterday, you know, and I think that every state is having a different experience with this because we have this crazy tapestry of laws to navigate. In Ohio, I think that there has been an awakening to how extreme our state legislature is. And that's important, not just on abortion and reproductive rights, but just across the board. I mean, the threat they pose to public education, for example, in the state too. And sometimes, you know, we don't notice what's going on in Columbus. We don't notice what's going on in our state legislatures. I mean, what are the stats, right, about like the number of people who actually know who their state representative is, or that they have a state representative in addition to a member of Congress. And so I think that there has been a sort of a reality check on that like, okay, so Roe was overturned, didn't like that, but what happens next? You know, like there's some confusion, and then, oh, that's what they're going to do? Oh, you know, and with the citizen-led ballot initiative, we have a chance to fix it. I have been worried, despite all of that, I think righteous indignation, anger, a feeling of how could they do this in my own state, deep concern for daughters. I, of course, have been worried about that fatigue. Something has happened in Ohio, though, in the last 10 days to 2 weeks, where it's like an energy shift. Honestly, a couple weeks ago, I was saying it feels too quiet. Do we
Oh,
still
yeah.
have it in us? You know, it's been a lot. I know how women feel, but this has been a lot. And just, it's, everything's shifted. There's something, you know, it's like with Halloween, seeing everyone like carve their pumpkins to say vote yes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and just the pictures people are posting from voting early on social media, the enthusiasm, the people, you know, going out to plant signs all over their communities and make sure that there's 2 yes signs for every no signs, the canvases and the phone banks filling up, people raising their hand, all the things I was just hoping would happen, that we would see the same energy or more that we saw coming into August. It's here, and thank God it is, because I would, you know, what do you do with all that nervous energy otherwise,
I
right?
know.
So
Listen,
yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. What changed in the last 2 weeks?
I think, look, I mean, some of it is just, oh, the election is here. It's the weather
Yeah.
changed. You know, it's fall.
Yep.
We had our
Yep.
first snow on, you know, two
Whoa.
nights ago, or just one. I know. This is. I live in Cleveland. Okay, so there's still some snow on
Yeah,
my
look.
roof. Yeah. So part of it, I just think, is that seasonal. Oh, okay, it is that time again. It is actually November, you know, with November approaching. I also think that the disinformation has has been felt, and there ultimately, I think there's some backlash to that. It is so extreme, the things that our opponents are saying about this constitutional amendment, that are just so like blatantly false. Um, and I think that there is a sense of, you know, you said it, the righteous indignation that kind of taps in and saying, oh gosh, we really have to do this. These are the people that are going to be in charge if we don't use our voices. And I think there's also something, you know, there's been the TV ad that they have been playing the most is one by our governor, where he and his wife really repeat some of this very blatant disinformation.
Mm.
And I think that that has been part of the wake-up call of our state government. The politicians who are in charge of our state do have this power. And, you know, there was an AP article out on Friday night about how there is, our state government is using the actual .gov state senate website to disseminate some of this disinformation, which sounds like, oh, okay, who cares, Katie? Nobody goes to that website. Well, Google does. You know, when
Right.
people search for information, our Google and our search engines favor government websites. They're supposed to be places of authority. So when you go and ask Google something about issue 1, if it's on a government website, they're going to put it very high in the search results. So we actually, my team actually discovered this, because we're constantly looking at what are women searching for in our state. Are we making sure that our website has factual information that they can access? And we're looking at, you know, what our obstacles are to that. And so, of course, we expect to see the propaganda coming out from these right-wing groups, but to see it coming out from a government website, and we were finding it very difficult to overcome because it was being favored as an authoritative site. So I think there's this sense of like, this is coming from our government, this is coming from our governor. We've got to dig deep, you know, and do something here ourselves. And it's really empowering once people have that
Right.
awakening, because we sent out to our Facebook groups, hey, this is happening. When you see this come up in the search results, report feedback to Google. Here's how. Tell them this is disinformation. And we're doing it every day, and we're seeing this website and these other government sources downgrade it because it is just demonstrably false information. But it's a lot, you know, it's a lot for the people to take on. And ultimately, this is the people versus disinformation. This is the people versus politicians who want to control our bodies and our lives. So makes the stakes feel pretty high, you know?
Oh, yeah, the stakes are very, very high. When we're talking about bodily autonomy, that is the right. That is foundational. If you really think about it, everybody's individual right to control what happens to their physical person is, I don't know about you, but it's higher up on my list than taxes. I feel like, we're obviously a lot of ink is spilled on the 2024 election, but that's why I've just continually gone back to the elections happening right now, because I feel like, especially on the left, especially on the left, people get very antsy. They're like, what can I do? What can I do? I'm like, there's actually elections happening now. And even if you don't live in Ohio, and if you do live in Ohio, vote, right? Engage in this process and engage in the democracy. But even if you don't live in Ohio, or if you don't live in Virginia or Mississippi or one of the states, Pennsylvania, that have elections right now, no matter where you are, there is a way for you to engage. I mean, what are some of the ways people can engage from wherever they are just to get out the vote?
Absolutely. So last night, actually, we had about 75 people at my house. I had a volunteer mobilization event here. We called it the final countdown.
That sounds like so much fun.
Okay, it was.
What are the snacks?
There was wine, there was snacks, but we were there to work. I kept on saying, this is not a cocktail party, people. We are here. And people really did. So what our mandate was last night was to talk to everyone you know and every stranger you meet about issue 1, and to take nothing for granted. Because, there are always, people sometimes think like, everyone I know has voted, everyone I know is voting, right. And it's like, it's 2023, like people just don't know. Like, if they get a work shift or childcare, falls through or whatever, the vote plan falls through. So just make sure, just check in with each other. Okay, so whether you're in Ohio or not, if you know someone in Ohio, isn't there a joke that everyone knows someone in Ohio? Like, just text them right now, like, did my college roommate live in Ohio once, or do they now? Just text them, say hello, be like, I just heard about, Ohio. I was listening to Zerlina. Have you voted yet? In Ohio, voting has been going on for a while now, and guess what? They can vote until 7:30 p.m. tonight. Like, we have long voting hours right now. You can vote every day between now through Election Day, except for Monday before Election Day. So we can vote all weekend, talk to every person you possibly know in Ohio and make sure they talk to at least 3 friends. Okay, but there's also ways we have, all kinds of virtual phone banking and texting going on right now that you can get hooked up with. So Red, White, and Blue we have some of these events. If you go to redwine.blue/events, you can get it on some of these. There's also, we are part of a coalition called Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights, and there is an event page there that kind of brings together all the different opportunities that are, most of them are like virtual or in person, so come and help out, call Ohioans. These are going to be Ohioans who have not voted yet and may need that extra nudge. I know texting is a little bit of an easier ask, but we really could use some more people on the phones, just hearing from that positive kind of motivating voice. Everyone who does it is saying it's such a positive experience. This is not a partisan election. It is completely driven by, our values, and this is not a partisan issue. I mean, in Ohio, there's no way we'd be leading if it was, right. To the extent we are in all the polls. It says 58% of Ohioans support reproductive rights, actually support the language of this amendment. Unfortunately, the language of this amendment is not on the ballot. So we have to make sure that Ohioans know, despite the fact that our Secretary of State and a partisan ballot board distorted the language to make it sound like they wanted to make it sound, rather than the language that will actually go into our Constitution. We just have a lot of work to do, so you can be a part of that. Like, help make sure people know, hey, no matter what they put on the ballot, this is what you're voting on. What an opportunity. Not every state allows citizen-led ballot initiatives.
Yep.
And in fact, I think it's less than half of them. So let's make sure that we use this right. We know that they want to take it away from us, so let's use it while we've got it. And we absolutely, all hands on deck. We can use all the help we can get. So call the person you know in Ohio. Everybody knows someone in Ohio. Call or text them right now. And then, look up some of these opportunities. Again, that's Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights. And there are opportunities to call Ohio voters every single day between now and the election.
One of the things we talk about on Monday is mental health. And I would also just add that, you know, we've talked so many times on the show about the loneliness epidemic, and I feel like one of the ways in which, I mean, if you're out there and you're like, how do I make friends? I don't know where to meet people. Volunteer. There are a lot of people, and like-minded people, right? If you're inclined to volunteer, you're going to meet like-minded people who have a similar worldview to you. So you're already doing, you know, well in terms of compatibility. And I've just met so many wonderful people in the course of my volunteering and also working on campaigns as a staff person that I just highly recommend it. Engage in your community to protect American democracy. That's the way I see it.
What you're saying is so real.
Yeah,
I just have to say, Zerlina, like, just to make
yeah.
that so real and concrete, like last night in my house, and this happens every single one of our Red, White, and Blue events, I was talking to these two women. You would have thought they were best friends since college.
Yep.
And they go, oh no, we just met in March collecting signatures. you know, you know. I mean, there's like, we're talking like best friendships, you know, that come out of this stuff. So yes to everything you just said.
I feel like it's a point people don't make enough, but, you know, engaging in your community, in, yes, politics, but in this case, it's, as we said, it's not necessarily a partisan situation happening. You can make friends, and you're going to make friends that you're going to get along with because they're all on the same page on very critical things like bodily autonomy. It's a very basic thing. So I don't want to make any predictions, but even if this doesn't turn out the way that you hope, what is that thought that's still going to keep you going no matter what?
I can't contemplate it not happening. This is so critical for Ohio women, families, every single person in Ohio. I mean, we already have medical providers who are saying, like, I'm leaving, I'm not coming to Ohio, I cannot practice in a state that will, you know, I have to do no harm. How can I do no harm if, you know, I can't make the decision with my patients that are best for them and their health? So, you know, I have two young boys. I want to be able to raise them in a state where they're going to be able to have access to the best medical care possible, you know? And so this is obviously just about immediate access to critical care. This is about bodily autonomy. It's the foundation for everything else. But, you know, in addition to that, August was so inspiring. It was this moment where it was like, wow, we came together and we said, we're not going to let politicians take away majority rule, you know, for us to be able to have a voice. And, you know, this is about showing once again that we're not going to let politicians who want to control our bodies have their way. It's bigger than abortion. It's bigger than reproductive rights. It's about democracy. And, you know, after we pass this ballot initiative, we need to start on ones for next year that help fix our democracy too. I mean, we've got to fix partisan gerrymandering. We've got to be right on to the next thing. But you know what's going to make it really hard to be right on to the next thing? Not winning this thing. So I just always believe the energy, the momentum is so important. So in addition to the fundamental substance of what this means for the people of my state and for my family, it's about what happens next. And we have got to make our democracy stronger in Ohio, not weaker. And this is the critical first step.
Katie Paris, founder of Red, White, and Blue, 20-year veteran of national politics and a suburban mom of two in Ohio. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody, text your friend in Ohio, vote in Ohio, Virginia, Mississippi, Pennsylvania. We've been talking about all of that recently. Thank you so much for being with us.